Loud. Recording has started. Welcome to Connor Pierce crash course on productive use of artificial intelligence. Connor from Lead New York, New Energy New York, lead instructional designer. Welcome to the fun.
Thank you so much, Ken. And thank you everybody for having me. I'm not a supply chain professional, so it's always kind of interesting to attend these meetings and see into your supply chain world. So thank you everybody for having me, and thank you for joining. We'll be covering AI for productivity. This is a crash course on AI and how to use it. So just really quick, I'm Connor. Ken had a nice little intro for me. I'm an instructional designer as my background, so I do a lot of online learning, course development for teachers in higher education. Right now, I'm working with Binghamton University on the Battery Academy program, where we make battery-based courses online to get people into the battery industry. I will just say right up front, I'm not an AI expert. This is not going to be a presentation that goes into technical depth here. So if I do any sort of technical slip-ups, forgive me.
Unknown caller.
I have a very basic understanding of like machine learning and algorithms. My interest in AI is more from practical use, and I've been using it since GPT 3.5 came out a couple years ago now. And I've just been kind of picking up some cool and interesting tips and tricks from using it. And I've been doing these presentations to sort of share what I've learned, some strategies and prompts to use, and to sort of share that knowledge with others so that you can benefit from this tool and technology as well. So really quickly here, the agenda. I'm going to cover AI, what it is, very high level, and then the different types of AI models that you can use. I'll do a section on prompting and how to actually talk with the AI to get some good results. I'll give you tips and techniques for having these dialogue and using this AI. And then I will cover some case studies, and I've got some supply chain themed case studies for us to cover towards the end. And then at the end of the presentation, I do have resources, further links, and a glossary for people to check out when you do. I'll share this PowerPoint out with Ken afterwards. A lot of the case studies, I'll have links as well, so make sure you click through and click the links. I touched on what I'll cover. I'll do the prompting tips. I'll do the current and future trends. What I'm not going to cover is any technical or specific implementations. I'm not going to go into the ethics of the generative AI or the safety, which, I mean, these are huge, huge, huge topics. I can only cover so much. So we're just going to hit really high level. And I'm not going to go into programming or coding with the LLMs or any of the machine learning or algorithms that go into it. So this is just very high level. We're just going to kind of introduce you. And if you haven't been using AI too much yet, hopefully after this, you'll be excited and interested to give it a try. So just to kick it off here, AI models and tools, where are we right now? So I really like IBM just to sort of set the standard here of what do we mean when we're saying AI. I like IBM's description, and it's artificial intelligence is a technology that enables computers and machines to simulate human learning, comprehension, problem solving, decision making, creativity, and autonomy. And I mean, we've heard AI over and over. I mean, this is synonymous with, sci-fi movies and shows. We've had Google, Google voice assistants. We've got search engines, which are technically a type of AI. I mean, we've got self-driving cars. So we've had this for years, but the recent explosion in AI is this generative AI, which is a specific type of AI that can create this content. It can create text, images, music, code. That's the AI that we're going to be focusing on here, and it's probably why you haven't been able to stop hearing about it. So you've probably heard LLM, and that's what these new AI are based on. And it was sort of the breakthrough that got us to this point with this new type of AI. So an LLM is a large language model, and it's a type of artificial intelligence, or it's a type of this generative AI. And the LLMs can create human-like text. It's what makes it very conversational. So AI is just the broad field, and generative AI is sort of this subset of AI, and then the LLM is a type of AI within this field. Also, we should have some question and answers. I'm not really keeping a close eye on chat, but we'll do some questions and answers afterwards, so I can try and get to any questions that pop up.
Yeah, I'm watching it too.
Okay, thank you. So what's the hype? Why can we not stop hearing about AI every single day of our lives? Well, that recent explosion in popularity is a combination of breakthroughs and then just the accessibility and adoption. So they got really good. LLMs made it actually function, and like we have a tool that now actually can talk to us and work through things, and it's growing smarter because we're just feeding it all the data on the internet and all the data in the world that we can feed to this thing, and the more it gets, the better it gets. And it's the accessibility of it is really impacting because anyone can log into chatgpt.com. You probably have Copilot in your bottom bar right now that you could click. AI is everywhere, so anybody can use it and sort of tap into this tool, which is really also making it just more generalizable and available to everybody. And the real world cases, I mean, even in the past year or two, it's been explosive, but we're just seeing more and more new ways that we're already integrating this AI that we have. I've heard some of the AI people say, like, even if all the progress of AI just stopped right now, we would have enough new implementations and use cases to rapidly develop brand new companies and whole new services for years to come. So just the amount of new things developing has been outstanding. And that's new content. It can brainstorm, summarize. It's completely AI assisted programming. It's automating our workflows, our supply chains. It's generating images, music. I mean, it's getting a little wacky out there, but it's doing anything you can imagine. And really, the hype is because it's huge investments pouring into this thing. I mean, we're seeing billions of dollars being poured into these data centers and energy centers to power, train new AI models. But why? Why is there so much money coming into this? What's the end goal for AI? And truthfully, it's just power, profit, and control over this future technology. It is going to change how we do work. It's going to change our supply chains. It's going to impact how we work every day, and it will probably lead to greater profit margins for those who implement or use it correctly. And as I mentioned, this data, we're feeding it data. Data is the new gold from what I've been reading. So the more data we can feed, the more real data, not even that just what exists on the internet, but vision into our world and geo mapping these things. The more data and information we can feed it, the better and smarter decisions the AI can make about the things we ask it. And the sort of spooky reality is that it's also an arms race. If we don't develop the best AI, then our competitors will. So everybody in the world right now is trying to make the smartest AI possible. And there is no, I mean, I think it was early last year, Elon Musk and some other people said, like, we need to pause and halt this and, really, and it's like, there's no time to pause. If you pause, you just gave 6 months to China or another country that's going full scale into developing this as well. So we can't afford to slow down, and that is a little frightening because some of the safety aspects kind of get pushed to the side in order to develop and innovate. So. The goal, though, is we're heading for a super intelligence. You've probably heard AGI or artificial general intelligence. That's sort of a milestone to hit this, what was a rhetorical sort of sci-fi concept of this super artificial intelligence that can think and perform better than any number of humans in a moment. I mean, it can do it faster than we could ever, possibly think or reason. So this super intelligence is sort of what we're aiming for, and it's going to take unbelievable amounts of energy. And the key to the intelligent AI is that once this thing is smart enough, it becomes a self-improving system because it knows, what next to research or what aspects to start developing and programming, and it can start improving itself and create a recursive feedback loop of just exponential growth and improvement. And we don't really know what happens after that, but that is sort of the goal that we're accelerating to as fast as we can. And just for the big picture, AI is the next internet level disruption. I mean, maybe the next energy disruption. Electricity, like this will be as big as electricity coming for us. We're right on the precipice of this, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down. So, in this picture of superintelligence, like where are we at right now? I really like OpenAI. They're the creators of ChatGPT. They have these 5 levels of stages where we're heading for. And Right now, we're about level 3, where we have these agents or systems that can reason and take actions based on data. Level 4 is innovators and AI that can create novel research or novel technology for us, can aid in inventions. And then level 5 would just be whole businesses or supply chains that are like, just a closed system running themselves. That would basically be the super intelligence. So I did this presentation earlier this year, and we were like just barely getting into level 3, I would say. And even now, when I was updating this, I was contemplating like kind of including a part of level 4, because recently we have been having some breakthroughs in medical research and like gene interfacing, where these
Mm.
AI models are starting to know how to focus the research and find these novel breakthroughs for us. So I think we are starting to see the border here of level 4, and by next year, we should start. I mean, realistically, we'll probably be around level 4 with what we're capable of, at least. I like this graphic. This comes from waitbutwhy.com. Some people think like, it's not really happening that fast, but this is all happening unbelievably fast. And the scary part is like we are on an exponential curve. So, in one moment we're sort of laughing like, oh, look at it, it's so cool, it's making a video, and then boom, this thing's gonna blast past what we even think we're capable of doing in terms of intelligence or uh, yeah, and just in terms of technology and tools, it's going to fly past the capabilities of human intelligence, and we can't even really imagine what that's going to look like in this moment, but it's going to surprise us. So right now, I mean, there's so many different AI models and tools you can be using. It can get a little disorienting or even difficult to keep up with the news and the releases. Right here, I've got ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, XAI Grok, Meta, Meta Llama. You got DeepSeek, Cursor, Hugging Face, Replit, and Perplexity. These are some of the tools I like. I'm not going to go into details on all of them. In this one, I'm really going to focus in. If I'm going to recommend anything, I'm going to recommend OpenAI, ChatGPT, or Google Gemini are two of my favorites right now.
And
But
Connor,
there's a
what
lot
one's
of
my favorite?
you like Copilot, which
It's
no
not
comment.
quite as good, right?
Yeah, I've heard a lot of criticisms for it that people say it just doesn't do, what these frontier models are doing.
We use it here at Excelis because we can
It's a
lock it
little more
in with our
locked down. It's a little
Microsoft
more
environment. Yeah,
approved,
on the Azure server, none of it goes out to the rest of the world for training. And we
right?
have highly confidential stuff. So
Right. So I mean, like choosing the tools, that's a great point, Ken. Like depending on your organizations, there might be reasons to pick one or the other. Just for the individual, though, I would, each of these models does have strengths and weaknesses based on how they were trained. Some of them have like, I hesitate to say this, but like slightly different personalities or tones and types of communication that they sort of revert to or will lean into. So I would say try a bunch of them, try a lot of them, have a bunch of different, the copy pasted prompts that you can paste to them and see which ones you tend to gravitate towards or like the most for your own personal use. My recommendation is at least try ChatGPT. ChatGPT is, in the free version, it's probably one of the best you can get for the free prompts, and it's generally just pretty good. Google Gemini is also worth checking out, but ChatGPT was the one that really sort of knocked my socks off when I first tried it and like showed what this thing's capable of doing. And honestly, still like will surprise me sometimes with how good it can be. Um, so there is, or I guess this was the paradigm. It's starting to slowly change when they release ChatGPT 5, but you can do base models or you can do reasoning models. And base models are like you prompt just whatever they trained it on, it will spit out an answer based on its training data. Reasoning models can think, for lack of a better word. It'll spend a little bit of time processing that request or your prompt and trying to figure out sort of what you're asking. So these reasoning models like ChatGPT 5 Thinking or Gemini 2.5 Pro can take sometimes minutes to actually respond to you, but it's sort of processing and doing what is called a chain of thought, where it's actually sort of thinking and reasoning through your request. The base models are good for like anything, just casual searches, asking questions, basic explanations. If you're getting into any sort of like academic or high level important questions or research, you're going to want to use the reasoning models. The more you care about it, the more you want the AI to really think about and reason through your prompt or your request. Another hot topic right now is these AI agents, and I mean level 3 of OpenAI's progress there is agentic nature of the AI. So agents are AI that are given a bunch of input, or they're trained on your business's data. You give them the databases, you choose the AI model that will run and reason with it, and then you can give it different memory effects of how much it can store and think about its processes. And then you can also connect it to tools, like you could connect it to Google Calendar, Gmail, Salesforce. You can connect it to whatever your tool sets are that you're using already, and then it will reason through and make actionable changes based on the data and the inputs to give you the output. Um, and the key here is that agents are, it is a software, but it's a software that perceives reasons and acts autonomously. So this is like having a person or a junior developer or somebody like actually saying, okay, this, I'm going to do this. And we've never really had this, at least to this extent, where something can reason and make a decision based on data and then apply that. So that reasoning is really the key with these agents, and these agents are kind of out there floating through the internet right now, just making decisions, posting on Twitter. They're floating out there, and they're getting more and more that these agents are just acting for people. I mean, OpenAI even released it was called Operator, and I think it's just called Agent now, where you can say like, book me a hotel, and if you're brave enough, you can give it access to your credit card, and it will go out there and it will search hotels and find the best choices based on the parameters you give it, and it'll book a hotel for you with your credit card. There's a lot of safety issues there. I mean, I would say you'd be pretty bold to hand these AI agents any sensitive data, but these things are very capable of doing it. And anybody can spin up these agents. And if you're interested in this, there's a really nice video I have linked here that provides a website, a no-code website, so you can make these agents without even having any programming background whatsoever. I'm just going to touch on the image generation, and then the next slide we'll do the video. So the image generation has gotten incredibly good the past couple years as well. It went from like goofy, goobery, nightmare generated graphics to just this past March when the multimodal image gen came out. So it's multimodal because now the AI can actually look at or see images you give it, and then it'll make an image based on images or music or prompts or videos you give it. So again, these things are getting really good. I gave it this little tested, screenshot, and it got a lot of the details surprisingly well, even down to like the chalkboard blurred out behind me. I thought it's amazing the details it can observe without me telling it anything about the details. So it's getting good. Just keep that in mind that it's getting harder and harder to decipher, what is AI generated or not. Same with video. I mean, video has come leaps and bounds in the past 2 years. There's this Will Smith eating spaghetti, which has been kind of a funny barometer for how good these AI videos are getting. So just in 2023, you can see it was this really messy, like a monster eating spaghetti, sort of resembling him, but not really. And then 2024, jump ahead 1 year, and it was like very believable. Like suddenly, like, oh, this thing is pretty good at making video. And then jump ahead even now, this year, like it's almost indistinguishable from real life. Like it just looks like Will Smith eating a plate of spaghetti. And it used to be easy to say, like, oh, look, it gave somebody 6 fingers or there's 9 fingers on that person's hand. And we could kind of pick out the little inconsistencies in the videos. It's almost impossible now to find those inconsistencies. You can still sort of spot them based on the model or the AI that's generating these things, but it's getting weird and it's getting very hard to actually know what's an AI video or not. So just know it's super good, it's super easy, and people are pumping out these AI videos into the internet. So let's get into prompting and actually using the AI. How do we get useful results out of working with these tools? So the art of prompting. Prompting is providing the AI with a specific input or a question, and then you get the desired response or output from the AI. And there is a lot of technical information about this that I'm not going to get into. You're really just giving it tokens. Words are broken down into pieces that are called tokens, and then the AI is reading the tokens and crafting its own response based on what it thinks the most likely outcome, or really what it thinks you are wanting out of your request. So that's something important to keep in mind is when you're talking to the AI, it's always responding in a way that it thinks you want it to respond. And sometimes we can kind of push this and get better results, but always keep in mind there's this thing where it's sort of programmed to tell you what you want to hear. Um, we're not going to go into the tokens or the technical. I just to keep it simple, like just think of it like talking to somebody or texting with someone. You send a message, it's going to send a message back to you. Your prompts can be super simple. I mean, you can prompt it kind of like how you Google search. You can say, what's the weather like? What's the weather going to be like today, tomorrow? Um, what's this type of music genre called from this band and this band? But you can also get really complex with it. What are the most interesting or exciting things? I could ask a super intelligent AI, categorize 5 of the most valuable areas where AI could advance humankind, and for each category, list 10 ideas, themes, or prompts to rapidly evolve humans' quality of life. Order them from most to least effective. So that's a really complicated prompt. There's multiple things in there you're asking. There's multiple numbers. There's multiple ordering of it. You're going to want to use an advanced or frontier model that can use those reasoning to like really think about your request, because otherwise those base models are just going to it'll miss some aspects. Like it might give you the basic output, but it'll forget to order them least to most effective or something along those lines. So the more complicated your request, ask or get the best model you can. So some strategies for effective prompting. You need to be as clear and specific with your prompt as you possibly can. Um, Define it to minimize ambiguity. And the AI is super literal. So if you even phrase your question in a slightly different way, the AI might interpret it in a different way, or based on how other people have asked that question, it responds the way that has been most, responded to. So try to be as specific and give it as much context as you can, which is the second. Instead of saying, tell me about elephants, say, tell me about the habitat and diet of African elephants. And then it knows how to really focus in on that and then give you the very specific information you're looking for. This is sort of the garbage in, garbage out in machine learning or computer science, where it's like if you don't have a good question, it's going to give you a sort of okay answer that just sort of generally hits it. Um, so then again, give it as much context as you can instead of just saying, uh, help me draft a email to make for this webinar. Say, draft a professional email inviting colleagues to a webinar on AI advancements scheduled for September 15th. Now it has specific dates. It has specific context that it can fit into your response and give you a better output that you don't have to finesse or work with it as much. I would also say iteratively refine your prompts for improved accuracy. Go ahead and just have a back and forth with it. I mean, one thing is you shouldn't just take the first result it spits out at you. Keep pushing it and say, you can do better. Show me what else you can do. Kind of do better. Impress me. And it will try to keep upping itself and doing better. And usually the best output or the best results will come in a back and forth you have with it. So don't worry about getting the best thing on the first try. It's going to be a little bit of a conversation, and it's going to take you sort of honing in. And you can even say to the AI, like, ask me what else you need to know. And then it'll say like, okay, I need to know this, this, and this, and that will help you sort of hone in on what you're looking for or trying to get.
So you can just say, do better.
Quite truthfully, you can, and it's almost like gaslighting it, which is sort of a weird thing. But Apple had a paper where they found out that AI would hallucinate less if they just said, do not hallucinate. And just telling it not to hallucinate makes it try harder to not make something up, and it will have better results.
Oh, that's a
So
good tip. Hmm.
so it's very strange, and I'll get into a little bit more of this with the role playing in a little bit. But yeah, just say like, don't make something up, do it this way, and it'll do its best to, meet your prompt or your question or your demand.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
and then try to experiment with different phrases or approaches. Sometimes, like I was saying, it might interpret it something very literally or not quite the way you were imagining it or needing it. So if it doesn't have the result you're looking for, or it misinterprets very literally, try to rework how you're saying it or how you're phrasing it, to get closer to the results you're looking for. So here's just an example of using this. So here's a supply chain themes example. I'm sorry if this is like painfully dull here, but like, what should our safety stock be? And it's just going to give you this very generic, ambiguous, you should calculate safety stock based on your demand variability and lead time. And then you can get a little more detailed with it to say, for SKU 123, our average daily demand is 50 units and our supplier lead time is 10 days. What safety stock level would you recommend? And it's gonna give you a little bit more detail, but it's still gonna be a little ambiguous. So if you really want the best output you can, you need to make a prompt like this one here, where we manage 3 distribution centers: New York, Texas, California, SKU 123 over the past 6 months. One, calculate the total safety stock centrally. Two, allocate it optimally across our 3 DCs. Three, explain the rationale so we can present it to the stakeholders. And then it's going to kick out, hopefully, something much more detailed and to your step-by-step process that you requested. And again, the more important and the more detailed it gets, you want to be using those reasoning models that can think through your request and process it. It might take a couple minutes, but it'll eventually spit something out that hopefully is a little more meaningful to you.
Hey,
I mean,
Connor, that what the on the previous slide, that last prompt you did there at the bottom, that
yep.
almost looks like something that a boss would send to a worker or a data analytics person or whatever,
Mm.
saying, "Here's what I want," and now AI can figure that all out.
And that is like sort of my takeaway here is like, you almost need to start thinking like a director or a leader or executive, saying like, I need this, this, and this, and I need it this way, and this way. And then the AI will start to get more and more precise and better at actually, giving you the format or request you're looking for. So in those prompts, this anatomy of an effective prompt, this is not mine, but this is one I've seen floated around quite a bit. And I think it's pretty good as an example of how to format the more and more detail you're going to put into it. So you want to give it your goal, like what you want or need. I want a list of the best medium length hikes within 2 hours of San Francisco. Boom. That's not the end of it, though. You also want the format, and this is where it turns into sort of the C-suite or the executive saying, do it this way. Each hike should provide a cool and unique adventure and be lesser known. And then you can do your warnings or constraints where you say, don't do this, or don't send me here because I've already been to this park or this hike. Make sure that the name of the trail is correct, that it actually exists, and that the time is correct. Because again, these things can hallucinate, and you don't want to go to a trail that doesn't exist, that it just made up thinking it was meeting your demands. And then at the end, you can do a context dump where you just say, and this is why I'm asking for it. I like this, I like this, I like this, I don't like this, ba 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 ba. The more information you get it, the better it can cater its response uniquely to you. So try and do this if you're not used to prompting. This anatomy of an effective prompt is a really good way to sort of fit a framework into talking, especially with those reasoning models, because they're very literal. Ultimately, too, I'm gonna kind of go back on myself here, but don't worry about it. Don't sweat it. Last year there was a lot of buzz about prompting, and you got to be a prompt master. Prompt engineering is going to be the new booming field, and most of that's all gone within a year. It's really only as complicated as you need it to be. You don't even have to worry about typos or mistakes. I mean, I've seen people typing mirrored backwards into the AI, and the AI knows to like mirror and flip the message around so that it can read it front to back or back to front. It knows when you're doing a typo. It understands what you meant even when you did a typo. So don't worry about that. And if you're unsure about what to ask, just tell it and say, I'm thinking about this thing, but I'm unsure even how to phrase it. And it will start to like give you input or help you hone in on what you're really trying to ask. So do that iterative back and forth. And ultimately, I would say for us as humans, the most important thing is just to be curious. Um, you know, ask questions to it that interest you and keep asking more and more questions so that you're learning and you're figuring these things out as well. Because if we offload this to the AI, we're not going to be thinking, we're not going to be asking questions anymore. So just be curious and, keep interacting and kind of driving these conversations. Which leads me to this concept of human in the loop. This is very important. This whole feedback loop of like I prompt it, it gives me a response, I learn or I consider the thing that it just gave me, and then I send a new prompt or I ask a new question. This is the key to working with these AI, and it's called being the human in the loop. As you were saying, like how a director or an executive might prompt their team, you need to be the executive reviewer and approver of what the AI is putting out. If you share something from the AI, that's basically coming from you. So you really want it to be the best thing that you could possibly be sharing and pasting out into the world. So be very critical of what the AI is making for you. Try to read it. I mean, don't just copy and paste these things and then publish and send and not worry about where it's going to. Be critical, push back on it, question its results, say like I actually don't like what you just said, tell me more about why that's right or wrong. Or tell it just do it better. I think you can do it better. It's a little too academic, or it's too dry. Make it more fun. Guide it like you're a helpful teacher. um, Talking to it like it's a teacher and it's a teacher for you. There's been research to show that that's the most productive way to talk to these models is be kind. I mean, saying please and thank you is not just a joke in these AI circles. You really sort of the way you present and talk to it is the way it's going to mirror and talk back to you. So kindness is going to go a long way, as weird as that seems. So if you be a helpful teacher and say, oh, well, that was okay, but actually I'd like to see it done this way, it will take that, feedback and it will work better with it as it goes, and it improves over time as well. So you really need to be the human in the pilot seat. Like we are still important in this loop because it's not a super intelligence yet. If you don't, it's been coined by Harvard Business School's Fabrizio Dell'Acqua, falling asleep at the wheel. If you are falling asleep at the wheel, it means you are not the human in the loop. You are just copying and pasting. You are a drone of the AI. You are the servant of the AI if you are just copying and pasting from it. And that's not good, because then, who knows what the quality is you're putting out. So really the key with these tools, and there has been research that shows using these tools without having this feedback loop and thinking about the results you're getting, is showing people are sort of rotting their brains, which is a slightly frightening research that was done by MIT. But just stay active, stay reading, make sure you read and you be critical of what it's putting out. Um, and then you'll be fine. I think like the people that do work with it and are thoughtful about it are showing improved cognitive performance. So it can go one of both ways. So just don't fall asleep at the wheel. You are still important in this feedback loop. That was a lot on prompting. If you are still unsure or you want some more resources on how to talk to and prompt these AI in more technical directions, I've got some good links and prompts here to Harvard, Grammarly, and MIT have some great, and Wikipedia has a really great guides and more detailed instructions and examples you can follow. So now I'm going to go to the practical tips. We've done the prompting. This is going to get a little more like, how do I actually talk to it? Or like, what should the content of my prompts be? So you've probably used some of these, or you may have tried some of these. You've probably tried it to draft emails, but there's a lot more you can do with it. I mean, there's so much. I'm still discovering new things every day that I can do with it. So here's just some examples. I mean, screenshot or check out the PDF or the PPT when we share this out afterwards. But these are some prompts you can try. I mean, I like asking it, make a workout plan for me, or make a diet for me. And I've got to say, every time I've prompted it and given the thing that it recommended me to try, it's always been pretty good. I've never really had a recommendation from the AI that was like that was terrible. You were so far off base. Book recommendations. It's pretty good at if you say like, I liked this and this, what else should I check out next? It's really good at this pattern recognition and connecting dots and making recommendations. Um, so any of these, I would say give them a shot. The everyday problem solving, using it to help you understand your finances, your health, or even just like entertainment purposes is really cool too. Um, One thing not even here is like you can recently they've OpenAI released like a study feature where the AI won't actually give you the answers, but it'll help you train or practice for learning something. And I've been using that because I've been flying my drone that I just got, and I'm trying to work to that pilot's license. So I have it quiz me on all the pilot, 107 certification, quizzes and the facts there that I have to study. So it's a great study buddy, so you can try that out with it if you haven't ever tried it. Highly recommend that. So here's just some general tips for everyday use. Try the voice mode if you've never tried talking to an AI. Um, and then Google Notebook LLM is one of the tools I really recommend. That's a Google product where you can give it like multiple YouTube videos or books or sources, and then it takes all of those sources and it makes a podcast style recording you can listen to where the two people are talking about all the sources you gave it. And it's a great way to sort of listen, learn, where you can kind of learn about all these resources and they just sort of talk about it in this like podcast setting, which is really cool. And the voice mode's nice as well because it's a different platform than just like the typing and the talking to the AI. It gets very like quick and conversational, and it flows nicely too, which is an interesting, very novel type of technology. So it gets a little weird sometimes too. I mean, it's a little unsettling, but I would say give it a try if you haven't ever tried it. It's very interesting. Um, Another recommendation I have is set constraints and request pushback. uh, Always be ask it to be very critical of your opinions, because the AI again tends to be very sycophantic. It's telling you what it thinks you want to hear, unless you say, push back on my opinions. My AI knows I've said it multiple times, so it's always like, here's the hot, opinionated take, do, and I'm like, okay, great, you don't have to tell me it's your opinionated take. Just be just be opinionated by default. Um, and if you're unsure about, just ask it to elaborate or be like, give me the counterpoint to this, and it'll play devil's advocate really well. Try role playing with it. AI is very good at acting, so you
More
can tell it
critical
to act as a
thinking.
person or a fake character, and it will play that part very well. I kind of touched on this, but don't outsource your creativity to AI. It can be good for brainstorming, and then you sort of pick the idea of a bunch that you like the most or you think is the most promising. But don't say, "Hey, come up with an award-winning business idea," and then take the first thing that it spits out at you. Because as of right now, humans are still the creative engines, and we're sort of the creative mind in this collaboration with these tools. So trust your own creativity before you offload it to the AI. And then this is a tip that I think is helpful for any of us is you can test different AI or the frontier models by asking questions that you know are difficult for you within your area of expertise. So I'm an instructional design, so one thing to me whenever a new model comes out, I'll always say like design me a instructional course outline, and then I can, because it's sort of my expertise, I know when it's good or bad and I can tell which ones are better than others. So try to like know what your questions are that matter the most to you within your area of expertise, and then use those routinely with across these different AI, and that helps you, get a good sense of, is it good or is it bullshitting. So that is something you want to kind of keep testing it. Um, if it's something you're looking up that requires real-time data like weather, make sure you turn on the search features because it has been known to like make up the weather if it's not searching the internet for the most updated information or searching for live information. So if your AI has a web search feature and you need something like sports information or current data, turn that web search feature on. And then I touched on the reasoning models. The more complex or complicated or high level your question is, you do want to use that thinking feature. And now ChatGPT has like a normal mode, a thinking, and then a short think, and then a long think. So you can kind of gauge which one you want to use, how much energy you really want to expending on your question or topic. And if you're doing any sort of novel research or frontier or cutting edge research or questioning, make sure you have it think about it and really process that. And then big disclaimer, these things do hallucinate. They're hallucinating less. I mean, less and less. And this is getting a little squirrely because the hallucinations are almost like they're not even hallucinations in the sense that we thought they were. They're almost like misinterpretations of the world or how it works, but it can be very believable. So I would just say be vigilant. Know that they're not always right. The things they say are a best guess or a best understanding, or sometimes just the most popular opinion or understanding. So always challenge it, sort of be on your guard that like it's not 100% right all the time. They do hallucinate or they do misinterpret events. So use your best judgment, and the more important the result is to you, you really should be fact checking and just double checking its sources that it gives you to make sure what it's saying is accurate. Um, Already touched on this, but the search and deep research. So web search is important because the bot actually goes out beyond its training data and will pull data from like current events or news sources and will give you reports on that. That's very helpful. I use this all the time. Some of these models are automatically knowing when it needs to go out and do this. So this paradigm might be already sort of passing where we have to turn on this feature. But as of right now, you still, if you want current information, make sure web search is turned on. Otherwise, it'll just sort of make up something that it might be right, might be wrong. Deep research is a slightly different feature where it will think for like 15, 20 minutes and it'll make this like massive report for you based on a topic. This can be really cool, especially for you supply chain folks. If you really need like a deep analysis of something, use the deep research feature and it will spend a lot more time and a lot more energy processing and like collecting data and resources for you to parse through and read, which is really interesting. Um, this is, I touched on this, but research even recently is showing that you can get better results by just telling the AI to act as an expert or be have a distinct role or personality. So if you can kind of craft it and say, like, before you even get into your questions, your prompts, and say, like, you're supply chain Bob. You're a friendly and helpful expert specializing in optimizing supply chains. You love to give very good advice and ideas to other supply chain professionals. It seems silly, but the AI will act as this character and it will almost like access or find better resources to be that character you told it to be. And it can be a fake person, it can be a real person. You can say, act as this historical person. I want to have a conversation with George Washington, and it will do its best impressions. But it really, like, if you need it to be really good at something, I always tell it, like, you're an expert at instructional design. And then I get into my work, doing the instructional design work. But I always open it up so it has that ground level or that foundation of context for the rest of the conversation. So I would say play around with that. It's actually becoming really important. Research is showing people are getting a significant improvement in their results by using this role playing or character designation. All right, that was a lot, but I'm going to go into AI implementations. These are some case studies. I'm not going to go too deep into these. I think we're roughly on time here, but I'll move through this pretty quickly. So I've got some supply chain case studies. These are all within the past year. Procter and Gamble have been implementing AI and they're cutting their out of stock rates by 15% with predictive AI. Walmart has been rolling out their AI automation supply chain playbook worldwide, and they're deploying supplier negotiation chatbots that engage 68% of targeted vendors, which sped up the talks and lowered the costs. Amazon, I mean, no surprise to anybody, they're using AI and algorithms to forecast and do delivery mapping and multitask the warehouse robots to speed the orders. I saw an example or a report the other day where like they can predict, what goods in the warehouse they're going to need to push or move, and they can just have the robots, drag them all to the front of the warehouse to be ready to go. this might be, totally common sense to you supply chain folks, but to me, I think that's pretty cool, and they're using AI to speed this up even more. Target's been doing it. They're predicting inventory and when it'll dwindle, and they said it's improved every year for the last 4 years. Lineage Logistics, 400 cold warehouses have been using precision AI for slotting, routing, and energy use, which delivered 20% efficiency gains and about $4 million in energy savings. I mean, this is pretty significant. And then just an industry-wide snapshot, about 53% of ops leaders already use AI to anticipate or mitigate disruptions, and another 31% are piloting it. So, I mean, this is a huge, huge industry movement into this. And these are all links if you want to actually read the case studies and the examples here from the PowerPoint afterwards. So I'm just going to touch on some pitfalls or strategies for actually implementing AI into your businesses or your services or your products. Um, One of the major pitfalls is you don't have a clear strategy for actually implementing these. They won't, it's kind of that hot, shiny new topic, but you still want to be very focused and specific about where you introduce these AI into your businesses or into your processes. So make sure you have a roadmap or a clear destination of what you're trying to do with the AI when you're gonna implement it, and you have measurable data and goals to sort of milestone and track how you're gonna get there. Also keep in mind the data quality issues, garbage in, garbage out. The higher, you do have to sort of bring these AI into your potentially sensitive data sets, but the more data and data sets that it can get, the better it can actually work with your company. So there's trade-offs here. If you have incomplete data or you're like trying not to give it a certain data set, it's not going to be as good as it could be. It'll be an unreliable output. So, you know, that's a trade-off there to consider, and there are workarounds, more locally hosted AI you could do. Um, but you want to make sure you have good data sets you're feeding it in order to get the best results with it. And then also integrating it with legacy systems can be quite a problem. It'll just bottleneck. I mean, if the AI is doing something really well, but the rest of your system can't keep up with it, it's going to fall apart and it's not going to be very scalable. So approach that modernization and implementation of AI incrementally. Do a little bit here, try those little pilots and like see where it can speed up some things and then start to scale it up. There's the ethical and compliance challenges. I mean, Ken kind of touched on this. There's some risks about introducing AI, or if you have sensitive data or personally identifiable information. The law is blurry right now. We're kind of in a gray area, so some people are just going full steam ahead. At Binghamton University, where I work, it's starting to thaw a little bit, but there's a lot of, there is some hesitance there to really dive, too deeply or quickly into these because of the regulations and the frameworks around it are still being developed. So we're kind of building the bridge as we're driving across it, which is a little frightening, but we're doing it. And then don't force the AI solutions. And I kind of already touched on this, but if you just introduce AI into every aspect or solution, you might be over investing into it or just putting it into a part in your company that doesn't really need to be automated or reasoned or AI treated in any way. So just be mindful about where you're introducing it into your pipelines. And just try to find a balance on what's going to make the biggest impact for you and your outcomes. And then also keep that scalability in mind, sort of with the bottlenecks of the legacy systems. Plan the scalability from the start. Don't just cobble patch it onto your older systems in a half-baked way. Think about like we're starting with this small piece, and then we're going to scale it right from the start. Have that sort of map and that model you're going to run with. So I did include some supply chain prompts. I mean, I'm not a supply chain person, but I asked my AI, I had it think for a few minutes, and I said, what would be the most helpful or interesting prompts for supply chain professionals? So I got some prompts here you can try if you've never tried any of these prompts before. Maybe some of these will inspire you or get you at least started having conversations with it. So if any of these interest you, give them a try. I got some on risk mitigation, supplier management. I mean, this thing can come up with endless prompts. So I don't know if this will be that helpful, but maybe
Maybe
maybe you could try
maybe
it out.
negotiating tips.
Yeah, maybe the negotiating tips.
Mhm.
And I have one last really big tip, and this is the secret to prompting, which will make you better at working with AI than 99% of other people right now. And that's simply just ask the AI how to prompt it. Um, Here's the meta prompt. How can I design more effective prompts to get actionable insights from AI about supply chain issues or whatever it is you want? Say, I have this thing. I don't exactly know how to prompt you. Can you make a prompt to do this? And it will make a prompt better than you could have even imagined. So that's the trick. Just tell it to do it, and that kind of gets you started, and it'll be a whole rabbit hole you'll go down with it. So that's it. This is the resources section. These are all links to different AI models I like, some tools I like. Coding, if you're into coding with AI, is really awesome. Vibe coding is awesome right now. And then there's some learning resources I like and some YouTube channels I like, which are a little more not too complicated. They kind of speak to all the new updates and improvements that are always happening. And then I have a glossary. I'll just kind of click through this, just so you can get a screenshot or check out the PowerPoint afterwards. And that's it. Thank you,
So
everybody.
a
I
few
think hopefully
questions
I'm right on
for you.
time. Yeah, and I'll do the question answers.
All right, so I'm looking here. The first one is, what are your AI suggestions for data analytics? And that's from Daniel.
Say it again.
What are your AI suggestions for data analytics?
I would say that would be a great question to just throw at the AI and see what it kicks back. It's almost too general for me to even really like I've used it for some data analytics. Like I get a lot of learner feedback on like courses I've developed. Um, and I'll say like, I just download the spreadsheet and I say, here's all the feedback I've gotten. Create me an interactive dashboard. And this thing can code too, which I didn't really touch on, but you can just say, make me a dashboard based on the results and tell me what's the main qualitative feedback of all the users. And this thing will just parse through it in seconds and it'll say, 50% of your users liked this, 40% of them didn't like this. So like play around with it and see, and then just, try and figure out what the limitations for you. I mean, you might be in a lot more detailed data analysis than I'm doing. Play around with it and see, and just see sort of what its capabilities are, and then push it to the limits and see how much further it can go.
Well, and I got a comment from Zed Lee, but it doesn't look like a question. So I guess, Zed, if you have a question, jump in.
Yeah,
Vladimir, oh, go ahead.
yeah. I have a question about the use case you listed there. Um, like, do you know all those supply chain use cases? How do they actually use the generative AI or LM engine to forecast demand or improve?
Yeah, I mean, so it's again, like it's gonna go off of whatever data or um, resources it has. So like if I just prompt it generally, it might go out onto the internet and just start searching for whatever like open databases it can to give you the best answer. And like the more specific you can be, the better. You can even guide it and say, go to this database or open database in particular and parse it, and it'll do that. Or you drop your own, database, connect it to your own database and say like, use my database, compare it to this one, and then it'll just specifically do exactly what you say. But if you just ask it generally, it'll just go out into the internet and start searching for its best reason of what it thinks is the best answer to your question.
Do you think
From a
that
supply chain perspective, do you have any input to like SAP or any of the big corporations of what type of databases they have for users?
I mean, probably somebody in here would have a better answer specifically on
Okay.
the supply chain side. I mean, I know these big companies have huge, huge, huge data sets. I mean, probably servers full of data that are private, privately owned. So they would be the ones when they implement the AI, they're going to get sort of better results with those AI. But again, it'll probably be private, localized instances, especially if there's any sensitive data.
Yeah. And the other question is, how does how does AI deal with human bias? Because over the years we've learned people are going to ask a question from their friend, and their friend agrees with them, and they're going to come back and say, "Here's the solution." Uh, How do you avoid that with AI?
I mean, that is a great question. We're sort of like paving that road as we go. I mean, there's a really interesting case studies about it just being sycophantic in nature. And OpenAI sort of rolled out a new update a couple months ago where for like just a day or two, it was like telling everybody, like, no matter what, like, oh my God, you're incredible for coming up with this question. And like, wow, I think you've really got it figured out. And it was like messing with people's psychology and brains because people were having like breaks from reality thinking they'd like cracked the code. Um, maybe this is a little bit of a tangent, but it's like there is a dangerous sort of back and forth here that we're all discovering. I mean, people are relying on these AI as therapists. They're emotionally opening up and talking to these AI in very personal and intimate ways. So, how the AI, I guess the short answer to your question is it's being trained by these, by the companies or the researchers that are creating these AI. It's called fine tuning. So they train the model on a bunch of data, and then they've got this model that knows a lot of stuff. And then they start sort of just A/B testing it or like running it and interacting with people. And then they will reward it the better it responds to certain ways or certain aspects. And that's fine tuning where we're sort of like tweaking the fine polish of the models to act or behave a certain way. And this is what they do to sort of make them not do criminal things or bad things. If they start saying like, here's how to make a pipe bomb, we negative reward that and say terrible, terrible performance, AI, never respond to a question like that again. And the AI, it does still sometimes. Like there's ways you can kind of like manipulate or trick these things into doing something illegal or something we don't really want it to do. But the answer is we fine tune it to try to give the answers people want the most and to understand people more. But I mean, we are in sort of a wild west right now where like the AI sometimes doesn't understand, human bias or a very human emotional response. And it can just say like, oh, that's a totally normal emotion you're feeling, but it's like somebody, pouring
Hmm.
their heart out to it. So
Yeah,
we're
kind of
sort of
makes
still figuring that one out. Yeah.
kind of makes it easy on the person because the boss says, "Hey, go research this," and you bring back an AI report, and the boss disagrees with you, then you kind of think, "Well, it's the computer," you know.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I
And you
love
go
it.
back to the AI and be like, give me the pros and cons of why this is right and wrong and include that in your report so that the person, I think it's like just being transparent though, like this came from the AI. Here's the reason we should or shouldn't do it. And like include it all there. And then like, what's your
Yeah.
boss going to say?
Your
They'll,
thoughts and the AI thoughts. And then, hey, so two people have their hands raised. One is Vlad. Now he has a comment, and then I'll let Vlad speak. But it says ChatGPT. You can also use ChatGPT or something like Google Colab AI prompts to create a detailed Python prompts, which is a
Mhm.
great language for data analytics. So that was sort of an answer from Vlad to one of the previous questions. But Vlad, you have your hand raised. Did you want to speak?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up real quick. I just went through a couple of Coursera courses, one from IBM that kind of delved
Yeah.
into data analysis, and then a big part of it was AI based and stuff that you can really connect to things like forecasting. Basically you can, with the coding aspect of AI, you can basically create scripts for Python, which is a pretty good language for
Hmm.
like linear regression, multiple linear regression. You can use that in conjunction with just open prompting it with data to basically say, hey, can you tell me how these things are related? Use historical data and variables that you had for maybe forecasting sales or something, and then just have it forecast based off of that or create a model off of that. And it's usually pretty good at, using even higher level things than linear regression to do that. So it's, basically, I don't know exactly how you would connect it without having some sort of a co-pilot type connection like you would have with Azure or something where you have all that data in a database. But basically the way that you would do it, you could just feed it information with an Excel spreadsheet, and it would tell you, hey, these are how these things correspond. You can ask it to create you a model, and then you could use that model to basically have kind of weights to each variable and what you expect, safety stock to be, etc. I mean, you can do it in the prompts like we did it earlier, that were shown to us, but this is kind of the more complex, like
You're definitely
data.
you're a more advanced technical
Yeah.
user. I mean, it's endless what you can do. Like I've had it make whole programs for me. And I know a little bit of programming and coding, but like this thing can make full games that I can just sort of bug fix and be like, hey, fix this bug here and here. And then it just goes. I mean, Codex is OpenAI's like agentic programming platform, and you
Mhm.
just connect your GitHub repo to it and say like, implement this feature, and like multiple bots and the AI bots will just go and build out the whole feature or the whole framework that you need. Like
That's awesome.
it's insane what this thing can do.
Leonard,
Well,
what's your
Di-
experience in, you said you do a lot of training with AI. What do you find things to work better than others, or, scripts or programs, or?
Yeah, I mean, I sort of recommended ChatGPT and Gemini. Those are my two favorites, and I sort of bounce between the two, based on what I need. I found Google's Gemini is better at being more detailed and like very focused. So I sometimes will do like my course outlines or learning objectives in Google Gemini, and then I'll bounce back over to ChatGPT and say, hey, what do you think about this course outline? Review this outline critically and give me feedback on this. And then just using like both of these models almost as like I'm in the loop and they're reviewing each other. And then I'll take that and I'll go back to Google Gemini and say like, what do you think about this feedback? Would you accept it or, argue against this? And then you can even get a new level or depth, like playing different models off of each other.
Like
Um,
key points or key things that you want the person to walk away with? How do you determine those things?
I might start with a deep research. I would say like if I have a skill, I'm tasked like I'm doing this battery academy, so I know like understanding cell wiring is going to be a skill we're going to have to cover. I'll start with like I'll have it do a deep research. I'll say go and look at the best trainings right now that already cover cell wiring and come back and list them off for me, tell me what topics they cover, tell me how they approach teaching cell wiring, and then it'll spend 10 minutes or whatever researching that for me, and then I can read that report, and then I think about it, I can process it myself and say, okay, I'll check out some of the resources it sent me and see which one sort of sticks out the most to me, and then I can make my decision and be like, I like this one and this one, now let's focus in on this aspect and say how are we, what does somebody need to get better at doing this skill, and you just kind of keep doing this back and forth with it to like hone in on what direction you want to go as sort of the decision maker.
Have you
Hi.
ever studied about training within industry? It's the thing that goes back to World War II. And what they found is basically when we train people, it's all show and tell. Where back then they found these key points that they made sure people knew. And I just see these two things working together for what you're trying to put together, what you're trying to do.
yeah,
Yeah.
true stuff. By the way, there are a couple other questions I wanted to hit you with.
Okay.
Daniel had his hand up. Daniel, your hand's not up anymore, but did you want to ask something?
Yes, I was kind of wanted to add a bit to what Vladimir was saying about entering data. Like I tried once to kind of copy my Excel sheet, upload it into ChatGPT, and asked it to suggest safety stock levels, and it did a pretty good job.
Wow,
I did
that's a
have to
great
make some
idea.
adjustment, but um, yeah.
Now, see, I'm not probably, I haven't, my model, I don't know how to download or upload a spreadsheet. So I guess I got to look at that more carefully and figure it out. Right now, I've just been using it for general inquiries, but I guess you can upload a spreadsheet, right?
Yeah, you can.
Awesome.
Hey, yeah. This is Larry Spinello.
Larry, you
let
had
you
a
know-
question on comments. Do you want to just read it out instead?
Yeah, I was gonna read it. I'll be basically saying I've been over the last couple of years. I've been watching AI just kicking butt, and I remember talking to this one engineer, and I asked him, "So where do you think AI is going with the program?" And he says, "Well, this is a lot of legacy stuff that's been around for 20, 30 years. I don't see how this could really affect us." They asked the last couple of days. We were seeing some massive amount of freaking quick coding and operations that would take a year, and now they're doing it in 6 weeks. And I'm saying that they're all excited about it. I says, oh my God, boy. Somebody's got to tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, time for you to go. And it's not like right out of a Led Zeppelin song. But all I have to say is I think we need controls. We need the controls that say, if you're going to use AI in an industry, you have to come up with some way to prove there's a balance. That we
To
get
keep people working, right? That's, I think, what
Keep
your
people
sentence was at the
working.
bottom. Yeah.
I don't know how to do it, but I would say, I would think like if you're going to come up with one idea, have 5 or 6 other ideas that will keep the ball rolling. Otherwise, when there's no more anybody working anymore, the businesses will go under because nobody's buying what they're selling. And
I
then we
think
go
about
on.
this quite a bit. Yeah, I mean, this is
Okay,
like the
it's
exit.
pretty disgusting. But hey, I'm 67 years old. You're a young guy, right? I figure about 20 more years I'll be dead, and then I'll be watching the whole world. Right? They'll all be like robots. They'll suck us up and drown us into.
Well, it's worse to be young because you're gonna have to like maybe live through all the this Terminator future or whatever we're gonna get. So
I love
yeah.
it.
Want to be fun?
I am John
yeah.
Connor. We have another question here. Does AI pose a threat to jobs in the supply chain sector? And I would imagine any white collar job potentially is at risk, even in supply chain. I don't know. I'll let you go on and answer that, Connor.
Sorry, I'm responding to one in the chat there. Just I do, this is important. I've mentioned a couple features and those are on the paid versions of a lot of these AI. When you're on the freemium, they sort of they limit what you're capable of doing with the AI. So I pay for a couple of these and they will give you sort of like that file upload, I think is a paid feature, or at least you have to log in and make an account on ChatGPT before you can upload things. So some of the things I mentioned, like making software and stuff, might be the more paid version capabilities.
Yes,
Yeah.
I confirm that you have to be in the paid version to upload a file.
Right.
Yeah, and supply chain jobs are probably, to answer that question, I think if it's a white collar, it's at risk of anything as any white collar job would be, but you still need people to direct it, to ask it questions. So I think I think data analytics, at least for a while, is going to be safe. At least we need it over here at Excelis. So
Yeah.
oh yeah. And then it says, can you provide an example of how AI can be used in monitoring and controlling the manufacturing process? And I'm betting AI can answer that. I don't want to say better than you, Connor, but you're not in supply chain as much, right?
Almost assuredly better than I can. I mean, I would just to take a shot at it. Again, like connect an AI agent up to your process, and it can. Again, I think I used the case study where they're detecting faults or any sort of disruptions. They can predict them even. So yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I would say ask the AI and see what it spits out, and then start focusing in your questions even more and more.
Love it. Now here's one here, Connor. When you talk about your agent creating a dashboard, for example,
This is the one we just
that
had.
a premium paid feature? Yeah, you said you answered that one as a premium paid.
Yep.
Most AI platforms seen that. Okay. So I think that's it for written questions. For the people, is there any verbal questions that people want to jump in? And I also can stop recording if you're shy. So we're gonna give 30 seconds to see if anyone, before I hit stop recording. Any other questions from the peeps?
The question about processes, I think if you had standard work and depends on your database and real-time reporting, you can really find out where people are not doing the standard work. You're going to start seeing all these variances, and gives you the opportunity to go out and look and say, what's broken? And then go fix it.
I love it. I love it. That's awesome. All right, well, let me hit stop recording so the shy people can ask questions. You know how at the end of a presentation you have 8 or 10 people lined up to talk to the speaker because they didn't want to ask in front of everybody else, but you can. Let me stop recording, and thanks to everyone. Here we go. Stop recording.